Monroe Institute has had to cancel all of their classes for last year, 2020, and this year, 2021, that were in-house programs. They're still doing some virtual events, and I'm sure they're very high-quality events too. But I'm sure that their organization has taken a big hit because of COVID and the fact that people can't travel to the Institute, because that's a lot of the charm, is that it, going to the Institute and seeing the technology they use there and getting the full experience. Let's see, other news, Jade Shaw and her husband, Charlie Morley, are doing an online question and answer this coming Sunday, March 21st from 7 to 9 in the UK. Cost is £12. I have, again, no information on it, nothing to do with it, but I thought I'd promote it.
We're actually having Jade Shaw here as well in a few weeks.
Yeah, I heard that. I was going to bring that up next.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jade is supposed to do an appearance here on Discord, and that's all good stuff. So what were you going to say?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just mentioning that Jade Shaw was coming here as well in a few weeks. She's quite busy with other events, as you've said. But yeah, she's going to come as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other news. Jürgen Ziva did a virtual reality documentary recently called The Lower Astral Planes, and that's bound to be good. I have not watched it. It's made for virtual reality. I guess it runs on Oculus. And Jürgen has been very involved in the virtual reality scene, and he's my favorite out-of-body author, if anyone cares to know. His book, his first book, Multidimensional Man, is like my favorite of all time. Fabulous book. So he's also been publishing videos on YouTube called Afterlife Answers, and he's spent a lot of time out there in the wild, if you will, and I'm sure the information is great. Just based on what I know about him and his work and his books. He's done several books. William Buhlman, author of quite a few different books, Adventures in the Afterlife, has been producing new content for his website, astralinfo.org, and look for that. He's been doing some classes as well, online classes, and that's all good stuff. He's a great teacher. I know Bill. He's a good guy, so definitely worth checking out. His books are really good. Also, a friend of mine, Nelson Ebru, and his wife Minori started a business called numabeing.com, and it's really kind of a science-oriented thing to leverage some of this stuff. Let's see, another guy, Maverick Vardoger. I don't know how to pronounce it because it's Norwegian or Swedish or something. Has a podcast called Evidence of the Afterlife, and I wanted to give a plug for that. He wanted me to do an interview for his podcast, and so far it hasn't worked out. I'm on the East Coast right now. He's on the West Coast, and he's got kids. He's busy. I'm busy, and trying to find a mutual time is just about impossible. But anyway, so check out his podcast, Evidence of the Afterlife. He recently released an ebook called Her Eyes Were Green, and it looks interesting. I haven't read it yet or gotten it, but that looks promising. Graham Nichols who's a British out-of-body teacher, has begun working on an expanded and updated 10th anniversary edition of his book, Navigating the Out-of-Body Experience. It's a very good book. I do recommend it, and hopefully we'll see more about that later this year. Maybe he'll publish it. I think he's going to shoot to publish it this year yet. My friend Lynn Miller and co-author Barbara Mango have recently released a book called Convergence, and I'll give a plug for that too. This is here. And it's about how different experiencers experience the same thing, and like not just out-of-body experience, but alien abduction type things, and all kinds of different phenomena, how they're interrelated and interconnected. So far it's good. I'm only about a third of the way into it. And lastly, in out-of-body news, my friend Juice has been doing an online book club that he's been running from the Austin, Texas astral projection meetup group, and they've been doing online meetups now. He's promoting it on some of the astral projection groups on Facebook. And so far, they've mostly been focused on the works of Robert Monroe, but in the past, they've covered things like Robert Bruce and that. Juice is a great guy, and he's very dedicated, and he's a good motivator. Anyway, people ask me about his name, Juice. I don't know what his real name is. I know everyone calls him Juice. I know even his nephews call him Juice, Uncle Juice. I think the only person who really knows his real name, is he himself and my wife Kathy, because my wife used to do taxes and she did his taxes, and so she had to fill out his real name on the tax forms, and of course she had to take a vow of secrecy. So anyway, so that's about all I've got right now for out of body and astral projection news at the moment. In my own life, I've had some complaints about my audiobook version of Hacking the Out of Body Experience. That's my 5th book, and people have said that the book's diagrams were not attached to the book itself when they downloaded it, and they wanted to be able to get that. And my understanding is I've got that fixed now, and those diagrams should be available for download. If not, they're available. They should be available on my website. Let's see, I've been working on my blog. Every Tuesday I post either an astral projection meme on Facebook or something to my blog, either an OBE book review or an article that I've written on out-of-body stuff. And of course I've got my website, books. I've also been working on some videos that I've called Truth Bombs. And of course, this is all new stuff, it's all free, because I'm not trying to make money out of any of this astral projection stuff. So the stuff that's on my website, my blog is free, my website is free. It contains the entire text of my first book, Out of Body Experiences, How to Have Them and What to Expect. And I think just the fact that I'm not in it for the money. I've had the book out there long before it was published, and I've got a lot of free information out there. And I'm not trying to make money at this. I always question somebody's motives when they're trying to make money, but let's face it, there's a lot of people out there scraping for a living these days, and a lot of hardworking people who need the revenue, and it's the focus of their life, and I can't deny them that. But anyway, that's that. So I should probably stop babbling and get to questions here. Let me see. Okay, I've got 5 books. My first book is called Out of Body Experiences, How to Have Them and What to Expect. And that was published in 1979. And no, I'm sorry. That's when I started doing OBEs, was 1979. It was published in 1997, so the inverse of the numbers. It was published in 1997, so it's been out for many years now. But it basically is the story of how I got into out-of-body experience and what I actually experienced. What I learned from Eyesight, how your eyes work, and how, things like how, talk about the astral cord, the silver cord, and all of these different things. So it's basically the story of what I learned out there from experience, and how to do it yourself, because I've got a lot of exercise in there as well. And I went about it very scientifically. My second book was called Lessons Out of the Body, and I was just contacted by somebody about it yesterday. She said that she had recently got a copy and loved the book. I wish everyone did it. It's not very popular with people, because the first book was trying to stay very scientific and on track. Lessons Out of the Body was more about where the experience can take us, and what it's taught me spiritually, and what my spiritual beliefs are, and some of the more eclectic OBEs that I've had. The third book that I've written on out-of-body experience is called Hacking the Out-of-Body Experience, and that's the one that my most recent publication, and it's all about learning to induce out-of-body experiences. So I think it's the most comprehensive book ever written on the subject. And I drew from resources not only from my own experience, but also the experiences of all kinds of different authors and experts on the subject. And I'm using science basically as a basis for the whole thing. So trying to understand how diet works in, how health works in, how vitamins work in, this whole deal. I mean, it's quite a complex subject. But the whole thing is geared toward inducing OBEs. It has really no fluff, no experiences, no OBE narratives, nothing like that. So it's all about OBE inducing. And my other two books, one is called Answers Within, which the Answers Within talks about my inner voice. And my wife has been she's been urging me to do a reissue of that and try to bring it up to date and make it a little better and republish it. But it basically, I talk about this in the first book, as when I started doing out-of-body experiences, I started a special kind of meditation really to induce the experiences and all of these exercises that I have in various books and stuff. And what I've learned is that I kind of unlocked this thing called my inner voice, which is kind of a source of inner wisdom. And I think there's nothing esoteric or magical about this. I think everyone has an inner voice. It's basically learning to talk to your subconscious and how to channel that information to your conscious mind. And your subconscious has access to deeper states of knowledge. So it's going to be in touch with ESP and things like that, what people call clairvoyance and channeling. I think channeling is just a highly specialized version of doing your inner voice. So that's Answers Within. And then my fifth book is a novel I wrote called The Gospel According to Mike, and it's all fiction. So I won't go into that in any detail. So anyway, pardon?
Okay, great. Thank you. What a great update. I love Jürgen's books as well. I'm just finishing his Vistas of Infinity.
Yep, good books too.
Yeah. Okay, so there were some technical issues because there's about 100, I think over 100 people. So for each stream, there's max 50. So there's been a volunteer to also stream your stream, a stream within a stream. But we're all okay now. So yeah, I think that if everyone just asks questions when they can, and then people can ask their questions in text to voice chat, and someone else will just ask it for them. So yeah, if you're ready to take questions, or you can present
I'm
something
ready to
else.
take questions.
Okay.
I've got the text to voice on my screen as we speak, and but yeah, either way, if you want to do that or have someone narrate it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Bob.
Yeah.
Do you have any profound experiences that you want to share? Just like your top,
What do you mean by profound?
Just ones that you would like to share that you think people would be interested in,
Well, yeah, I tend to not share a lot of experiences, and I shared a lot of my most cool experiences in my first book and the second book too, Lessons Out of the Body, and I haven't shared a lot of them since then. I've been trying to kind of collect them together to try and work into a new book. Hopefully a sixth book will be coming out, but so far I haven't had a lot of time to work on that. What I will say is this. What most people don't realize, I mean, if you go down the street and you talk to somebody that's out on the street or whatever, they don't know anything about out-of-body experience or astral projection. They think that their lives are one thing, and I can tell you this, that what we think our lives are is really different. We sleep at night, but during the night we have a whole nother life that's happening out there, and most of us have no idea that this stuff is going on because we're not conscious at that time. What I can tell you is once you start, I think most people, when they go to sleep at night, average people who don't do out-of-body experience, when they go to sleep at night, they naturally separate from their body and they float above it. And Sylvan Muldoon, the author, theorized that the purpose was to recharge the body. Then you had to leave the body to do that, to recharge the astral. But I think he was trying to say that we were recharging the astral body. Some people think that they're recharging the body and that the astral body has to separate to collect the two. At any rate, we separate from the two. Now, almost all the time, we are not conscious of that. We're unconscious. And we go through this whole process of washing the brain and regenerating our neurons in our brain. There's a whole bunch of chemicals. There's a chemical balance that has to be rebalanced. And basically, when we sleep, it has the effect of washing the brain and resetting it for the next waking period. Most people are completely unconscious when all of this stuff happens, but there's a certain period of time when we are unconscious that things get done. And I think the more you're into out-of-body experience and astral projection, the more we tend to be utilized or used as tools. And I think this is stuff that we volunteer for at a subconscious level. Like healings, for example, some people will leave their body and they'll be taken and they'll be used basically as a healer to help somebody heal. Or other astral work. I mean, some authors, not a lot of authors, but some authors talk about astral work that we do when we're out of body. And mostly we're unconscious that is even happening, but sometimes you get a glimpse. Well, I've gotten some very interesting glimpses, and your question relates to, what revelations or whatever. And I'd have to say that it's just this out-of-body work that I am doing that I'm not conscious of. There are beings out there. There's a couple of different kinds of non-physical beings that I've encountered. Okay, first and foremost are the invisible helpers, which seem to be completely they're like hanging around you and they're completely invisible. You can't tell they're there unless they speak to you. But if you address them, if you talk to them and say, hey, I need help here, please help take me to this place or whatever, they'll oblige you. They'll say, oh yeah, sure, I can do that, and they'll help you. But they tend to not talk very much, right? They use telepathy or whatever, but if you try to engage them in conversation, they're very tight-lipped. They don't want to talk. They're like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to talk. I'm here to help you on this mission or whatever. So that's one kind of being that I've encountered. And for some reason that I don't understand, they're almost always invisible to me. I can hear them clearly, but they're almost always invisible. The second type of being is what I think of as an angel. And I know it kind of sounds ridiculous or whatever, but throughout history, humans have described these beings that they call angels, and mostly it's in the context of, I was visited by an angel and he told me this or whatever, and were you conscious at the time? I don't know. But these angel beings, I've described them as looking like a giant Coleman lantern filament. So it's like if you were to imagine a person's aura, except they're glowing very brightly so you can hardly look at them. They're just these big glowing things, right? Human-sized glowing things, and they might be standing 4 feet in the air or whatever, but they're standing there. But I've had dealings with these beings that I think of, and I think when people in the past, like in biblical times or whatever, described angels, I think these are experiences of what they were encountering. They were encountering these non-physical beings out there that glow and that they want to get astral work done for whatever reason, and it's almost always helping people. So my experiences lately have been like they'll pull me to some place to try and help someone, and what I believe is that they can't reach this person to help them themselves because their vibrations are so much higher. They can't even get close to this person. The person wouldn't is out of reach. Basically, they wouldn't be able to affect that person. But somebody like me or other astral projectors who are in the body, we have a closer affinity to physical reality. We are more, our vibrations are lower, slower, or whatever, and so we're more able to reach these people that are in need of help. And so what I think is happening, based on my experience, is that these angel beings will take me out of body, and they'll bring me to some place, and they'll put me in front of somebody, and they'll say, this person needs to be helped. Can you help them? And I'll go down there and try to help them. And sometimes I'm successful. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I get scared because they put me in situations that make me uncomfortable. Sometimes I'm 99% of the time I'm unconscious of what's happening. But once in a while I get a glimpse. I become lucid and aware, and it's like, oh wow, what is happening here? And I become aware that I'm, really there in the out of body state, and that these angels are standing around me, 2 or 3 of them, and that I'm supposed to be helping this person. And it's really mind-blowing thing. But anyway, that's the kind of thing that I've been doing lately. And I think that anyone who does this out of body work, the more you get used to it, the more these angels can use you as a tool. And and I think that it's with our complete cooperation of our higher self, or even our conscious self. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with them cutting me off and helping people who are in need. But it's never negative in any way. It's always the context of I'm trying to help someone. So anyway, I sorry if I babbled on too long on that, but that's what's been going on in my experiences lately.
That's a
Nice.
amazing answer. That really connected
Yeah.
a lot of dots for me. So I think, for the purposes of just being fair, because we've never had this many viewers before, you've just blown up our Discord. We have a lot of questions, so I think we'll just moderate the questions in the text to voice if you want, and then if you mind just going through in order. Through that, is that okay?
I have text to voice in front of me, but I haven't been scrolling it.
Oh, it's okay. I think the first question. Let's see. I think it's by Squeaky. I think. Question: what do you think about channeling collective consciousness, like Abraham Hicks? If you can see that one, I think it's.
I'm looking through the questions here, but there's a lot of them, and I don't see that particular one.
If you scroll,
do you have the time that it was posted?
Sorry,
Gene, do you have the time that it was posted?
Oh yes. If you just scroll all the way down to the bottom and then scroll up a bit, it's 21 minutes past 22. But I'm in the UK, so that might be a bit different for you. But it's about.
Yeah, I see. Oh, I see it. I got it.
That's the first question.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So channeling, as I said earlier, I think channeling in general is just basically talking to your inner voice, and your inner voice is basically just your subconscious. But the thing people don't understand is that your subconscious, there's layers, right? There's all kinds of layers, and who we are is there's a lot more to who we are than we think there are. There's your conscious self, obviously, that we're most aware of, but even that conscious self, there are different pieces of it that are somehow connected together. But anyway, the subconscious, you got the conscious mind, you got the subconscious mind, and you got the superconscious mind, you got a higher self, and I think it keeps going, right? I think our higher selves are connected, and I think at some point it's connected to God, or collective consciousness of everyone. So your subconscious, which is just like one layer next to your conscious self, has access to that information, psychic information from your higher self and whatnot. And I think that all channeling is talking to your inner voice and channeling that information. So basically translating that information from that higher self through your subconscious to making it available to your conscious self, and then writing that down as conscious thoughts. I've done quite a bit of that from my inner voice point of view, but I'm reluctant to call it channeling. because channeling kind of has a connotation. I mean, there's a lot of channelers out there, and so anyway, I think that the Abraham Hicks information, the Seth information that was channeled by Jane Roberts, I think a lot of that all comes from this inner voice phenomenon, and I think that good information can come that way. We get bogged down in the monotony of life and our little tiny perspective of the world. Because we don't use this channel of our subconscious well enough. And I think so that's I think is a good thing to do. I haven't particularly read a lot of Abraham Hicks. I've seen a lot of quotes online, but I have read a lot of other channeling books. I've got a whole shelf on my book library at home is dedicated to channelers like Seth and the different ones. There's a whole bunch of them. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here because we have a lot of questions. Is there a correlation between astral projection and precognitive dreams? From Joe. Yes, absolutely. There's a connection, and what you find out is when you start doing astral projection work, you start to allow your consciousness to go into these deeper levels, and what happens is also when we sleep, we do we go through a planning phase where we plan out the day's events, and it's not just the day's events, but events in the future. So it could be a couple of weeks from now. And what happens is we will create a dream scenario in our sleep, and we will replay life scenarios over and over and over, and we will rehearse these events in your life. So you rehearse events, you create events, and this is coming from like your higher self or something. So you rehearse these things over and over, and then when you actually perform those events, that's when you have deja vu, for example, because you'll remember, oh, I did this before, and this is what was said next. And the reason you have the deja vu, the reason you know what's going to happen next is because you carefully planned it out and you rehearsed it in your sleep. And what happens is when you start doing astral projection, you're allowing yourself more conscious access to those states. And so you're training yourself to remember dreams, remember lucid dreams, carry your consciousness deeper into these states of sleep. And so these precognitive dreams, these scenarios where you're planning your life, everyone does it. And astral projection gives you better access to that. And so people find that they're having more of these deja vu and precognitive episodes after they start getting into astral projection. All right, Deep Thinker 369 asks, what's the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection? Well, I've got an article on my blog that it goes into great depth. There's been studies done by a lot of different people, a lot of different sources, but there are a lot of differences between them. Lucid dreaming and astral projection are both obviously conscious experiences, so you're conscious and aware of what's happening. In a lucid dream, you're surrounded and enclosed and experiencing a dream hallucination. And in an out-of-body experience or astral projection, you basically dissolve that hallucination and you wake up. And so if you never see the difference between lucid dreaming and astral projection, you might confuse the two one for the other because they're both conscious, they're both very realistic. But there are differences and there are things that you can keep in mind. For example, with lucid dreaming, you'll have a pretty much integrated body image. So you will be aware of having 2 arms, 2 legs, 5 fingers, while actually in lucid dreaming you could have different body image. But I should say body schema to be more correct. But anyway, your experience will be more like physical experience, right? You're going to see things and it'll look just like your regular eyesight. You'll feel things and it'll feel just like regular feeling in the physical world. That's in a lucid dream. When you dispel the hallucination and go from lucid dreaming into astral projection, astral projections tend to be more on demand. Your body image, if I wasn't thinking about my hands, my hands wouldn't appear. I'd have no sensation of my hands. But if I think about them and look at them, suddenly my hands are there. So it's more like on-demand hands. Our body, and it's true with the whole body schema. I mean, I think your feet wouldn't exist, your legs wouldn't exist, none of that would exist. So your body schema is not the same. It's more on demand in an astral projection. Also, eyesight is very different in an astral projection. In an out-of-body experience, a lot of times, I described it in my first book as astral mind sensing, and that is you can basically feel everything around you. So you can walk through a room and navigate it perfectly, but you're basically feeling with your mind all of the objects. But it's not really much like physical sight. It's not much like eyesight. It's like seeing in 360 degree, all directions at the same time as a pinpoint of consciousness, but it's not very easily translated into physical. I saw this dresser in the room. It's more like you're feeling that shape and that object, and it's a dresser, but it's not like physical eyesight. So there's a difference in your experience, and that your sight isn't quite the same. Also, there's a lot of different things. Like people talk about sexual content, right? In a lucid dream, sexual content is very realistic and very much like physical sex. In an astral projection, it's more fleety. It's more like an energy transfer. It's more like an explosion that happens. It's more like your astral body or non-physical body and someone else's. That energy combines to become like one energy, and it's like there's this explosion. So it's not very much like physical sex. It's more like a mind trip. So anyway, there's a bunch of differences, like I said, and I've got a whole article on my blog. There's a link on my website, robertpeterson.org. That's my website, and I've got a link to all of my blog articles, and you can do a search from there for that article. I've got lots of them on different topics, and that's just one of my favorites. So as Loki Falls, or as Loke Falls asks, "Hi, Mr. Peterson. I've seen some people out of body that doesn't seem fully aware, like having a blank expression and their shape looks unstable, changing. Have you experienced this, and is there a way to help them becoming aware?" Yeah, the thing is, usually it probably depends on their level of consciousness, right? My experience is when I'm trying to contact somebody who's in the body, let's say I'm in an out-of-body experience and I go to, like, let's just say I go to my friend Juice's bedroom, and I look at him, or maybe he's walking around his apartment. He won't make eye contact because he doesn't see me. I can talk to him, but it's like I'm talking to his subconscious. He'll act distracted. He won't be focused on me at all. That's an in the body person. With an out of body person, like if it's another astral projector or a non-physical person, it's more like talking to a regular human being. I mean, they'll look at you, they'll interact with you, you can have a one-on-one dialogue, although telepathically usually, not so much with words. If you see other people that are like subconscious, I think it's probable that they're probably in their dream state and they're hallucinating. They're probably experiencing a dream hallucination, and you could try to break them out of that. But I think most people would probably wake up in the physical world if they were to do that. So anyway, helping them become aware, I think they need to start practicing awareness and out-of-body techniques to get to that level, basically. So Guinness asks, "What's your opinion on helping spirits that passed away while out of the body?" Well, I think, again, that's the kind of thing that I know Bruce Moen, for example. He had a whole series of books when he was alive. He's now no longer with us, but Bruce Moen had a whole series of books, and where he used Monroe, the Monroe Institute techniques to travel to these focus levels, and he would help spirits who have passed away, who didn't know they were out of body, or they didn't know they had died, and that kind of thing. And he helped them make the transition. And there's a whole series of books on that. They're very good books. And I've personally never really done that. And I think it's probably best to leave that to the professionals, if you will. And what I mean by that is I talked about these angels and non-physical helpers. I think there are whole teams of people on the astral plane that are, angels, that are non-physical people, other higher beings that go around helping people who've passed on, and they try to contact them. And sometimes they use people like me or any other astral projector to help make contact with them and pull them into a higher state of awareness so they can move on with their lives or their afterlife. I know Jürgen Ziva also talked about in some of his books encountering people that have passed away and all of that. And so anyway, I think that it's a good thing, but I think that we have to be careful as physical beings. I think that we're very ignorant of the afterlife in general. We're just kind of getting into it. And I think that it's probably best left to the professionals, these non-physical beings that are out there who make it their mission to help people like that. And if you want to volunteer for that when out of body, then that's a good thing. But I'm a little afraid of interfering too much and trying to project my beliefs of what a person should do and think and how to help them transition. I'm a little leery about trying to interfere too much and doing more harm than good. A lot of people ask about whether there are any movies on out-of-body experience. Very few that I'm aware of. There's one called Astral City. And Astral City, I think it addresses that topic. I think in Astral City, the main guy who's the subject of the movie, I think at one point he tries to help people who passed away find a new place in life, in the new place in the afterlife. And the problem is he didn't know what he was doing because he was too new to the afterlife himself. And so he basically just interfered. And I think we have to be careful to do that anyway. So somebody asks, I don't know if that's Japanese characters or Malaysian or whatever. Have you ever smoked DMT? No, I've not. I have not smoked DMT. I haven't taken any illegal drugs. Like I haven't even smoked marijuana, believe it or not. Although I'm not adverse to trying that. I tend to be libertarian, and I think people should be allowed to do what they want, put what they want in their bodies, et cetera, et cetera. But I also think that I'm a computer professional, and I think that smoking marijuana and some of these other substances can dull your mind after a bunch of use. I think they definitely have a place, by the way, and especially for hallucinogenics like DMT and like some of the psilocybin and things like that have very therapeutic uses. So Peacemaker asks, I've been trying for almost a year now and haven't had any progress. How to try and achieve an astral projection experience. I've got another article on my blog, and it's called, I've been trying for, I forget what the title is, but it's something like I've been trying for years to induce AP and haven't been able to. And I've got some good suggestions in there. I think one of the big things is to change it up. If you've been trying the same thing over and over, it's going to work the same way over and over, and you're going to be unsuccessful. But I think the thing to do is to optimize your chances, to increase your chances as much as you can by doing things like practicing in the morning, for example, rather than at night, so you don't fall asleep. Try varying the time of day in which you practice. Also, try things like wake back to bed. For what you do is you set your alarm for 4 hours, and you have an alarm go off, or your phone goes off at 4 hours after you go to sleep, and it wakes you up prematurely. And at that point, you start. You get up and you try and bring yourself to full lucidity, and then you go back to bed and try to induce an OBE then. Sometimes it works for 4 hours, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 hours. Different people need different things, right? But there are different practices you can do that basically facilitate it, that help you induce OBEs, make it more likely, if you will. Things like doing affirmations in the morning when you first get out of bed, or even before you get out of bed, to do affirmations. affirmations that are positive, like I can leave my body, out of body comes easily for me, stuff like that. So basically, you're trying to impart the importance on OBEs or astral projection to your subconscious. Other things is, I think walking helps, exercise helps, diet helps. I think for me, I know that I have a real tough time inducing an OBE if I get too heavy. I tend to stay around 180 pounds, and if I go like 185 or much over that, I can't induce OBEs, very well at all. If I stay under that, I'm much more likely. Also, dietary things. There's things you can do, like I do personally believe that wheat gluten plays a part in astral projection because wheat gluten. Some people are highly allergic to it and get celiac and all kinds of bad problems. There's even an extreme form called wheat schizophrenia where it can cause you to have hallucinations. But I think what happens is with wheat gluten, it can affect the prefrontal cortex of the brain and it can cause brain activity to drop. And I think having a certain amount of wheat gluten in your system can facilitate that OBE, because I think there's normally connections between the different areas, the different hubs of the brain. And I think wheat gluten, if you try to reduce the neural activity in that prefrontal cortex, it helps. Also, another tip, like reading an out-of-body narratives, for example. So reading a book about, read Jürgen's book, for example, right before bed. That'll ingrain it in your subconscious of, this is cool, I want to become aware in my sleep. Also giving yourself, suggestions for your dreams and to become lucid in your dreams. And once you're lucid in your dreams, to dispel the dream hallucination. So, for example, you can tell yourself, if you dream a lot about, like I tend to dream a lot about really big buildings, like shopping malls and skyscrapers and huge sprawling buildings. And I don't know why that is, but I try and give myself suggestions that whenever I'm in a big building, I need to remind myself that I need to ask myself, am I dreaming? Could this be a dream? And then you could do some reality checks, like trying to poke your fingers through your hand, trying to stretch your fingers, with your other hand, see if they'll stretch, things like that. That can confirm that you're in a lucid dream. And then once you're in the lucid dream, you dispel that hallucination and go to the OBE state. Okay, so those are some suggestions. I got a lot of tips, techniques, and suggestions on my website, which again is robertpeterson.org. Okay, next question from Mars. What are your thoughts or experiences on shared dreams / mutual experiences in OBEs and astral spaces? Well, I've got, I hate to keep bringing up my blog, but on my blog, I've got another article called The 4 Out-of-Body States or something like that. And basically, I think whenever we leave the body, we dissociate from the physical body. There's like 4 different states of consciousness, right? When you're conscious, when you're unconscious and you're out of body and you're hallucinating, that's a regular dream. When you're conscious but you're still hallucinating, that's a lucid dream. When you're conscious and you're not hallucinating, that's an out-of-body experience or an astral projection. And this is mutual dreams or shared dreams are basically unconscious OBEs. So basically it's an OBE, an astral projection, in which you're in a non-physical place. It's not a dream hallucination. And so you can share that dream space, or I don't know if it's a dream space, but share that mutual space with other people who are out in that state. So I think it's a state of mind. Author Robert Moss talks about shared dreams and mutual experiences in some of his books, and they're fascinating. He talks about experiences, for example, where you are on, you're dreaming, you're unconscious, right? So you're dreaming, but you're still out of body, but you're standing on this vast bridge that's got, very unique, I don't know, let's just say gargoyles or something on it, and it's unusual. Well, then next day you talk to your friend and they had the exact same dream, exact same bridge, exact same gargoyles. So it was a shared out-of-body state, but you were unconscious. So it was a mutual shared dream or a mutual experience. Robert Waggoner, who's written books on lucid dreaming, has also had some of these things. And the thing is, there's no hard line between the four states, right? There's some bleed through between hallucination of a lucid dream that can bleed through into an out-of-body experience. And if you're not careful, it can suck you back into a dream state and back into a hallucination. So you have to be kind of on your toes. So there can be a certain amount of bleed through between the hallucination of a dream and the non-hallucinated astral world, which is a whole different topic. But anyway, there's a lot of questions, so I'm going to keep moving on here. XVIO asks, I suffer from fear of death. Is that going to affect me? You mean affect you in getting out of the body? I don't think so, no. A lot of people have gone into out-of-body experience or astral projection with an extreme fear of death, and the out-of-body experience cures them of that, right? They see that, okay, there's my body over there. They're not the same thing. I don't have to be afraid of death because it's just, shifting focus to a new world. It's not like you're going to be snuffed out. You can actually see for yourself that you can exist apart from that physical body. So if anything, it would cure you of that. But I think the fear of death would not keep you inside the body or keep you from having the experience. All you need is an open mind. You don't even need to believe in this stuff. When I first started getting into OBEs, I often tell the story about how I read Robert Monroe's first book, Journeys Out of the Body. And I didn't believe a word he said. I thought he was, out of his mind. Or in the UK, they call him a nutter, which I love that term, nutter. In the United States, we call it a nutcase. But I thought that he was, basically hallucinating or dreaming or whatever. And I was very surprised to find that this stuff is real. So I went into it without any kind of belief in the experience, and I didn't think that there was anything to it, and I was very surprised that I was wrong. And it is very realistic. Next question from Napo. Since you approach AP scientifically, do you think it can be dangerous? The spiritual explanation is that we are connected to astral body with a cord, but to the scientific side, we don't have a guarantee at the moment. Well, it looks like there's an upvoting scheme, maybe. Anyway, I don't think that it can be dangerous. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, and it's never affected me. It's never caused me any harm. I'm a very scientific-oriented, analytical person. I work on the Linux kernel of the Linux operating system, if you will, and I've done more than 350 patches to the Linux kernel now, which is really quite. I was amazed to figure that out today. But anyway, it has not. My out-of-body stuff has not affected my mind at all. I don't think that it's dangerous to mind or body. In my experience, you can never lose your way because there's always this higher self. You were brought here for a purpose, right? You're put on this planet in this body for a purpose, and I believe that purpose for most people is to learn spiritual things, to learn how to get along with people. Almost all these lessons are lessons on love. So we're here to learn love. We're here to learn to love ourselves, learn to love our families, learn to love our spouses, how to learn that process, humankind in general. And so we're brought here for that purpose. And I think that there's this higher self that guides us, provides us the physical experience that we can be in these situations that are uncomfortable, or sometimes we're dragged around and put under a lot of stress. Sometimes we're given some very harsh lessons, but I think that it's all for the purpose of teaching us things. And I think until that purpose is fulfilled, you're never going to lose that physical body, right? Your higher self is going to make sure you're protected. Your higher self is always going to make sure you can get back to the physical. I mean, I've been out in far reaches of space where I had no clue there wasn't a planet within visible eyesight of me, where there was nothing but stars, right? And I still had no problems coming back to my body. So I think that there's nothing real dangerous to it. I also haven't found any dangers to logical thinking or analytical thinking or my job or anything like that. No problems with my health. I'm in very good health. I've already outlived my father, and he died kind of young. But anyway, I digress. Yes, there are no guarantees. My experience with the astral cord is, I think the astral cord. I've had fights with my astral cord. In my first book, Out of Body Experiences: How to Have Them and What to Expect, I have a chapter in there about a fight that I've had with my silver cord. And one time it impeded my progress, and I was so angry about it that I reached behind. I turned around and I grabbed it and I yanked it with all my might. And I was like really pissed off, right? Because like I want to go explore this out of body state, and this astral cord is like pulling on me back toward my body. So anyway, I was mad. I was angry, upset, and I pulled on the thing real hard. I think if there was such a real thing, I would have broken it for sure. But anyway, I don't think that you can break the cord. A lot of books have been written saying that you can't. Well, where's the proof? There's no proof, right? All I have is experience to go on. But I think that again, your higher self will make sure you can't get lost, can't break the cord or whatever. Because we're here for a reason, and it's going to make sure that you fulfill that reason. Okay, so Zombies asks, what exit method do you think is best for a beginner to perform? What's the most effective method you found? Well, the most effective method I've found is, the most effective method for me is not going to be the same as what's effective for everyone else. My whole book, Hacking the Out-of-Body Experience, has like 60 different astral projection techniques in it. And it comes not just from me and my experience, although I've invented quite a few and put them in the book as well, but also the techniques of other authors as well. And I think everybody has a unique stubborn programming that keeps them inside the body, so you need to be able to let go of that stubborn programming. I think the most effective for beginners especially is through lucid dreaming. So if you are constantly throughout your conscious day asking yourself, could this be a dream? Where was I a few minutes ago? Does this make sense? And what you'll find is if you ask yourself enough questions like that throughout your day, throughout your physical day, and obviously don't ask it out loud or people will think you're crazy. But if you keep questioning your reality throughout the day, that'll transfer into your dreams. And someday when you're dreaming, you're going to do that. You're going to say, could this be a dream? And then you think to yourself, well, wait a minute. It doesn't make sense. I'm in a dog pound. I can't be in a dog pound because that doesn't make sense with my life as I remember it. So this has to be a dream. So you'll remember that it's a dream. From there, you have to transition the dream out of the dream into the out-of-body experience, basically by waking yourself up to full consciousness, but dispelling the hallucination of the dream. And the trick is to do it without waking your physical body. But basically, you could do things like, I think Frederick Ardema recommended, like, you sweep your hands in front of your eyes, saying, everything, when I do this, everything that's hallucination is going to disappear, and you do that, or tricks like that. You basically give a verbal command, like William Billman might say, reality now, or hallucinations be gone now, kind of thing. And you're commanding your consciousness to dispel all the hallucinations out of your experience, so that you're experiencing a non-hallucinated astral projection environment. And so I think that's the easiest method, especially for beginners, is to get to the lucid dream state, dispel the hallucination, and get to the out-of-body state from there. Once you're out of the hallucination, what happens is normally you would open your non-physical eyes and find yourself floating above your body. And you'll realize that, this whole thing I was in was just a hallucination. And then you can stand up, get up, whatever, walk away from your body, and you'll be in the non-physical world. Other than that, I've got lots of free techniques and suggestions, again, in my blog, and pointers to my blog from my website. Okay, so next is Pawn Sacrifice asks, I've had several intentional experiences and many vivid recall of dreams, and I also believe every night when our physical body falls asleep, we place our meat car in park and we exit without our rational awareness. Yes, this is true so far. I've noticed that sometimes I am in an area designed for subconscious processing, and the dreams are very close to home with a mashup of people I know and places I've been in the past. Other times I'll be in places that I don't feel I made, with massive architecture crowded with people that interact with me with surprise. When I go lucid and my awareness collapses to that area, do you think we travel to consensus areas sometimes when we're dreaming? Yeah, absolutely we do. I think we have a lot of experiences when we're dreaming of the non-physical worlds, and we just don't realize. I think that's a lot of people, at least in the past, have made a distinction between out-of-body experience and astral projection. And what they say is, in astral projection, you are in an astral world. You're in an astral plane. You're in some non-physical reality, and it's far, far away from here. So you're in some kind of world or whatever that you're experiencing, some city, massive architecture, whatever, other people who interact with you in different ways. And with an out of body, you're more likely to be in your own physical bedroom, or what some people call it etheric projections, or that kind of thing, where you seem to be close to this physical plane, where you are aware of your own house or apartment building or flat, and you like fly out the window of your building or flat or through the wall, and you experience physical reality. You land on the grass and you start soaring above, that kind of thing. So it almost seems like there are two different locations. I think they're all basically just out of body experience. And I think that the terms astral projection were just created by people to explain the different kinds of experience that are out there. And like I said, there's a whole lot of reality that we don't understand, and we experience at night without any awareness. And when we start to do astral projection, we start uncovering that and learning about these things. Okay, Mr. X asks, question, how can I train my inner voice to be more communicable? I've attempted this during meditation many times, and it seems more like parroting than having a conversation with myself. What's a practical way to accomplish this? Mr. X, that's a very good question, and it's exactly why I wrote my book, Answers Within. It's a very short book, much shorter than like Hacking the Out-of-Body Experience is like 500 some pages, I think. So it's huge, and it's all about leaving the body. But Answers Within is about learning to communicate with your inner voice. And for me, it was a slow progress of a series of steps, basically, from one to the next. And the way it started out is through introspection. That's a big part of it. And answering my own questions. I started asking myself one day, and this is how it kind of all started for me. One day I kind of started asking myself, I was waiting for a bus, and I thought, if I was in the presence of a guru or master or Jesus Christ or Buddha or Muhammad or some of these big, mountaintop gurus, if I were in their physical presence and I could ask them any question, what would it be? Well, one good question is, what is love? Or why are we here? Those kind of things. And then I put myself in those shoes. Like, if I was the guru at the top of the mountain and someone else had asked me this, how would I answer? And so I started just doing this intense introspection of answering myself from a third person point of view. And so I think the most crucial step in learning to talk to your inner voice is developing what I call a subconscious, a trigger, basically. So I have a trigger question that I use, and my trigger question is, what is love? Okay, so if I want to talk to my inner voice, I always ask myself, what is love? And then I reach down within this introspection, go into kind of an introspection mode. And I try to answer myself that one question, and that kind of gets the ball rolling. It gets the juices flowing, and it starts the communication with my inner voice. Once I've answered that question, I can ask anything. But it's a slow progression. It's there's a certain amount of there's a certain point to where I thought I was fooling myself, and I had to go through a long period of self-doubt and thinking that this is complete hogwash, this is crap, and I'm just fooling myself and all of this. But after a while, things started proving out. For example, I would ask it questions about, if I need to I'm driving, right? I need to find a parking spot. Am I more likely to find an empty, free parking spot if I turn to the left, if I turn to the right, or go straight? And I would just pick one, turn left, and then I would go left. Well, guess what? After a while, it proved itself out. I mean, I'm uncanny at getting good parking spots. You can ask any of my family or friends. If I'm driving, I can get you I usually get the spot next to handicap parking at the shopping malls and all of this. And it's because I often use my inner voice to just kind of establish that connection and do a guidance on it. Now, I wouldn't advocate extreme talking to your inner voice while you're driving, operating a vehicle, because you don't want to be a distracted driver either. So you have to approach it with a bit of caution. But my book Answers Within was written to teach that process, and I don't want to shortchange it, but it's a long process. Let's see, next question. Sage asks, you mentioned wheat gluten as a positive force for getting in the right-minded state, if I understood correctly. Have you used seitan in your diet before? I know it has a lot of connections to traditional East Asian diets. I've never heard of seitan. What is seitan? I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
There's pardon?
I'm Sage. It's like a traditional East Asian washed flour gluten. It basically extracts the gluten from flour, and they use it as a protein in a lot of diets.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, Sage. I'll have to do some research on that, but thank you for pointing that out. I'm going to write that down and research that. So I don't have any experience of that. I have done a lot of experimenting with different supplements, like, for example, vitamin B6. I take a B complex that contains a lot of vitamin B6, for example, and it helps me remember dreams. But what I found is that I remember my dreams best either when I'm starting vitamin B6 or when I'm stopping it. And if I'm consistently taking it, I can lose that unless I always stay on it and write them down all the time and keep a habit of it, which is a good thing to do. So that's another good trick of the trade, is always keep a dream journal, always write down your dreams if you can. But I find that dream recall is easier when I'm either coming from no vitamin B6 up to starting to take it all the time, or the opposite, right? Where I've been taking vitamin B6 for a couple of weeks and then all of a sudden I stop it and get off of it. Then I'll start recalling my dreams much better too. I've also used other supplements, like I've tried galantamine. A lot of people swear by galantamine. It's never really done anything for me, and I don't know why. I've tried mugwort, and I've had some experiences with mugwort, but again, 90% of the time, it does absolutely nothing for me. I can drink tons of the stuff right before bed, no effect. And I remember reading something a long time ago about Robert Monroe, and I know he did a lot of work with Dr. Charles Tart, who was a scientist. One of my heroes in life is Dr. Tart, and he wrote the foreword to my first book, Out of Body Experiences. But anyway, I know he did a lot of work with Tart, and one of the things that I think they did is they tried giving Monroe LSD, and it didn't have any effect on him. It's like it didn't affect him at all, and they weren't sure why. But I remember reading that, and it might not have been Tart involved. It might have been somebody else, but I remember reading that somewhere and kind of stuck in my mind. So it might be that after a certain amount of this stuff, that things that used to work, like galantamine and mugwort and that, wear off kind of with experience. I don't know. Okay, question from Taylor. As a data analyst, do you use any particular recording or archiving techniques to write down your astral experiences? Any curious digital programs that could help log patterns and organize journals over time? Actually, no. I've always just written them down in a document. I've got at at the beginning, of course, when I started all of this, it was 1979. I started writing them by hand on paper. There was no internet. And so I kept all of those journals. I bought a blank journal book, basically. And then I actually had a couple of different journals. One was just for dreams, and one was for my OBEs, and I threw other, psychic experiences in there too. But anyway, eventually I, being in the computer world, I went digital at some point several years ago, many years ago, and I've been recording them in documents. And of course, I'm fanatical about keeping backups. So always record your experiences, always keep backups, and if you can, keep correlations of, try to remember what you did the previous day that might have helped things. Did you exercise the previous day? Did you eat wheat gluten throughout? What dietary things did you do? What meditation things? So yeah, I don't really have any organizer or anything. I just keep journals, and I'm up to journal 7 or 8 right now. Anyway, from Camus, question: do you think it would be possible to build a device that would astral project whenever you wanted? Do you think it would be good for humanity? I think it would be great for humanity. I think it is possible, and it was always kind of a dream of mine to create a device like that. And they've got some lucidity machines like the Nova Dreamer and things like that are supposed to trigger lucidity. For example, you wear this device on your face, like goggles, and you go to sleep at night, and when it detects that you're in REM sleep, it will cause some LEDs to flash on your eyelids, and then you'll see these flashes while you're dreaming, and you'll realize that, oh, I'm dreaming, I gotta be lucid. And I think those work for a while, but then they stop working. But I've always kind of wanted to create a device, and I think that what's best is to create a device that's based on sound. And I'd like to do more work with having like a computer aided sound device that would start out with like binaural beats and things like that, and try to guide you to that proper state of mind. But first you got to figure out what that proper state of mind is, and that requires a lot of analysis and things. And it's not just about the brain waves, it's about things happening deeper in the brain than that. And I'd love to see a device like that invented. I think that for example, virtual reality has a place for teaching us how to let go of our stubborn in the body programming. And I think that can train us. Virtual reality, VR goggles. Also, like DJI came out recently with a new FPV, a first-person viewing drone, in which you can you put on VR goggles and you are seeing from the vantage point of the drone. So you have a controller and you make the drone go up into the sky, and to you it looks like you're flying, right? So it's a kind of a integrated flying experience. And I think devices like that can be a big help to astral projection. And I think there's a lot there to be explored. And I think that if people start doing more astral projection, start leaving their bodies, I think it would be great for humanity, right? Like I said, I have all this free information on my website, and I do it for free, and I kind of evangelize this. And sometimes I feel bad because, like, oh man, people like William Bielman are trying to make money doing this, and I'm kind of stealing their thunder. I'm giving away information. And I kind of feel bad about that, but at the same time, I'm trying to promote it, right? And I'm trying to promote them because I think that it's to the benefit of all mankind, all humankind. Because if people can learn that there's this other reality, if they can see that they don't have to be afraid of death, and that if they can learn to see beyond their bodies, for example, I'll give you a good example. If people can, of all religions, can leave their body, they should be able to agree upon what's in the afterlife, right? You don't have to adhere to a Christian heaven or a Muslim heaven or whatever, a Buddhist paradigm. You should be able to agree. If enough people start having these experiences of the afterlife, we should be able to agree on what this stuff is and stop fighting, stop the conflicts. Same thing with prejudice, right? If I leave my body's over there. It doesn't matter if that body's black, white, red, yellow. It doesn't matter. you see that your spirit, your non-physical, that body is a meat suit, right? And it doesn't matter that that person over there is black and I'm white. That doesn't matter. It's just their meat suit. That's just something they're presenting to you to give you a context in which to interact, right? So I think that if the more people have out-of-body experiences, the more they'll come to realize our non-physical nature, and I think that will be to our benefit. We'll be able to drop things like prejudices and our fighting over religions and things like that, and then maybe we can start to treat each other more humanely and stuff like that. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Good question though, Camus. Question from boy, and we're like 20 minutes past the hour. So I'm a little bit I'm getting a little beyond what I was going to do, but I'll keep going here for a little while. From Cafeb, a bit of technicality. More than half of the times when vibrations occur and I try and do some actions such as rolling, sitting, floating up and down, I end up just moving my physical arm or more often leg. Is this something you've had trouble with at any point of your experience? Could it be an issue with wrong timing, doing too much, something else? Any suggestions? Yes. This has happened to me countless times. I feel your pain. And I like to tell people I've failed to leave my body probably 25 times for every successful time I've done it. So you have to have a lot of patience with it. But basically, what you need to do is you get to the point where you reach the vibrations, right? If you suddenly get excited, it's natural to get excited. It's natural to think, oh boy, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. If you get excited, that for me at least, I don't know about other people, but for me, when I get too excited, it shuts it down. The vibrations fade away and they die off, and I'll regain control of the physical body. The best thing you can do, in my experience again, is to keep your mind blank and just stare off into the void. Just stare off into whatever's in front of you, right? Just stare ahead and do nothing, and let those vibrations get louder and louder and louder. Because the more noise you put in your brain, the more it's going to quash those vibrations. So you have to allow those vibrations the time and energy to build until they reach a crescendo. When they get to their peak, that's when you want to try and move your physical body. And Maverick Vardoger came up with kind of a unique thing that he calls breaking the glue. And basically, it's basically where you are like trying to physically, it's like you're glued to your physical body and you try to break free from that you try and sit up or whatever and break free from that glue. And that's a good analogy. But that's basically what you got to do, is wait for the vibrations to build to a crescendo and do nothing until they do. Don't think about it. Try to remain calm. I know it's hard. It's very, very hard to keep your composure when feel like you're being electrocuted or whatever with vibration, but it's worth it. Just try and keep your calm and watch what happens until those vibrations reach kind of a crescendo point, and then try to roll out or move your body. So let's see. Pawn Sacrifice asks, I've noticed an underlying mechanic that I hope you can comment on. Even though we're perceiving without eyes per se, we still have the ability to focus our sight on a target. And when we do, it seems to me that it changes our ability to interact with the target and vice versa. From what I've experienced, this seems to be a natural, ever-present thing when I'm out of body. What are your scientific thoughts on this kind of enabling of data exchange? Well, my experience of this matter is that, author Sylvan Muldoon, way back in the 1920s, he noticed what he called the chord activity range. And what that is it's about 15 feet, or if in Europe, it's about 5 meters, right? If you're within that distance from your physical body, if I'm too close to my physical body, the body can interfere with my experience greatly. It can change my eyesight. For example, if I try to open my eyes, sometimes my body's eyes will open, and of course they won't focus because I'm not there. I'll be at the top of the ceiling or something, but my body's eyes will pop open, and I'll see from my body's perspective, all blurry and everything. It's very confusing. And if I try to interact with somebody, it's going to be basically very confusing experience. So the first thing I usually do is when I have an out-of-body experience, get away from the physical body. Try to get at least 15 feet or 5 meters away from your physical body. At that point, and try to keep your eyes closed when you do that. Don't just ignore your physical eyes at all costs while you're getting away from it. So of course you're not seeing, so you can't see that you're 15 feet away, but do your best to estimate, right? Once you're about 15 feet or 5 meters away from your physical body, then you can make the effort to open your eyes, and then you'll see from a more non-physical perspective. You'll see from that astral body, but it'll be more of a physical kind of eyesight, and then your interactions will be better with people as well. Then you're free to go wherever you want, but if you're within that 15 feet, chances are real easy that your body can pull you back into it. So that's number one priority, is get away from that cord activity range. And from there on out, then you can try to open your eyes. Then you can try to interact with people, go wherever you want, go flying, whatever. But that's the first thing you got to do, is get away from the body. And I think that might be part of the problem. I don't know if that's your problem or not with the eyesight and interacting, but that's my experience anyway. Question from Keegan. Question is, everyone able to astral project? If not, what makes someone not able to? That's kind of a double-edged sword, because I don't want to say that that some people can't do it, because I wasn't born with any kind of special talent. I was not born with the ability to have out-of-body experiences any more than anyone else. I think we all kind of have that inherent ability, if you will. But I think some people are much more prone to it than others. Some people seem to be born naturally to be able to do that. And I think a great deal of it is something that science calls absorption. And what that means is when the ability of a person to focus on one thing to the exclusion of something else. So, sometimes, the person who's focused on a chess game, for example, and their wife or girlfriend or whatever is trying to get their attention. Hey, we're supposed to be there here. We're supposed to do something or whatever. And they're so focused on that game that they're completely absorbed on that game and nothing else. And it takes a lot to break them out of that attention. I think that's the kind of personality that is better able to have OBEs. And consequently, it's the same thing for hypnosis. I think people who are easily hypnotized tend to be able to let go of their story of experience, something I've talked about in Hacking the Out-of-Body Experience. You have to be able to let go of that story of experience and focus on this inner event to the exclusion of all others. And I think people who are more easily hypnotized tend to have higher levels of absorption, so they are able to more focus on things to the exclusion of everything else. And I think that helps. I think people who are very difficult or resistant to hypnosis have a hard time, and I'm one of those. I have a hard time because I'm very resistant to hypnosis. So for me, I have a heck of a time leaving the body. But it's just something to bear in mind. So I think it is easier for some people, especially people who have higher levels of absorption than others. But I think basically we're all born with that ability, and I certainly was not born with anything special. These things don't happen to me spontaneously. I have to work really hard to keep them going. One thing to bear in mind too is if you have an out-of-body experience, it makes the next one easier to do for at least like a week or two. So if you do have an OBE, keep on it and keep on it and keep on it, because it's easier to have more. Once you get out of that cycle and break free, then it's kind of hard to work back into that. Anyway, yeah. So Pawn Sacrifices says, I wear the shirt periodically. It's got a picture of the periodic table of elements. My brother-in-law bought me that. He knows I'm kind of a science nerd, and so he saw this and he bought it for me. Anyway, it's almost 7:30, so I think at this point I better cut it off. And looks like there's still a lot of questions out there, but maybe I can work with Gene to do another one of these at some point. But it's been a lot of fun. Gene, is there anything you want to wrap up if we call it? Because I told my wife I'd try to limit it till to 7 o'clock. Well, it's 7:30 now. So I've already gone a half hour over what I was planning on. My wife's probably going to be mad at me. So.
Yeah, you don't want to upset the wife. No, thank you. That was amazing. The answers were so incredibly like comprehensive and exhaustive that I think you answered a lot of answers that people may have had. You did for me anyway. So yeah, that was amazing. If you want to join again at any time in the future, we can just message each other and organize something else.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's try and do another one. I mean, I hate to leave when there's so many questions unanswered, but perhaps if we do this again, you can save your questions, and maybe we can do it in another 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Or after Jade Shaw has her chance to do her presentation or appearance.
Oh yeah, but we have quite a few people lined up actually as well. I don't know when.
Cool.
Yeah. Who have we got? Let's just have a look.
Yeah, I'm
Upcoming
curious.
events. We had a monk a few days ago, a Buddhist monk from Thailand. Do you know Rick from Astral Club? I think he's a moderator on the Astral Projection Reddit as well. Yeah,
it doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah, he does quite a lot of YouTube videos. I'll send you the link for his videos. Yeah, Cyrus Kirkpatrick. Not sure if you know.
Oh, him. I know Cyrus. Yep.
Yep, he's coming next month. And Samantha Lee Treasure. I think she's a friend of Jade Shaw. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, and Jade Shaw. That's who we've got lined up at the moment.
All right. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I think Porn Sacrifice. I think you had a question. Do you have any new plugs for his work? I'm not sure if you want to.
My work. Well, I've got, like I said, I've got my website is robertpeterson.org, and it's old and clunky and to be redone desperately. And my wife even knows a lot about web design. She's designed web pages, and she doesn't like it. So, but she's done it. And she's very good at it. But I do need to revamp my website. So it's old and clunky, but it does have links to my blog. And my blog, I try to post something on there every 2 weeks. I'm very active on Facebook. My website, robertpeterson.org, also has links to my entire content of my first book, and all of it is free. I've got an index of OBE book reviews. So before you buy any books on astral projection, I urge you to look at my website and go to my book reviews, and it's alphabetized by author, and see if I've done a book review for it and what my thoughts are on the subject. I have a pretty good pulse on all of these books. I have always a huge stack of books to read on astral projection, but I've got probably more than, I'm sure it's over 100 book reviews for different books out there on astral projection, so check that out. Let's see, I've got my books. I've talked about my 5 books. I've got a YouTube channel in which I've posted a couple videos, not a lot, but I hope to do more. Like I said, I've been working on this thing called Truth Bombs. I published Truth Bombs 1, which is basically just thoughts that I've had. I've got a couple more Truth Bombs roughed out, and I just need to record them, but I've written down a lot of that. Just has to do with my inner voice and things like that, things that I find important in life. And that's about it. So thank you everyone for having me.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I think everyone's posting your links in the channel. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming.
All right, great. And we will talk to everyone later, and I'm going to drop out. If I can figure out how to drop out, I'll start closing things. Bye.
Yeah, there you go.